I'm M. Carter Pierce, and you're watching The Daily Reel. Ladies and gentlemen, I come today with a warning, a very, very, very real warning. They're on the move. They are on the move, and we better get on the move. As you know, or should know if you've been watching this channel for any length of time, we're here for the voters. We don't get paid for what we do here. We do the homework so that you don't have to. And because the mainstream media is so scared of being sued by the current administration because he's done it before and they've lost millions of dollars, they're afraid to oppose him and tell the truth. And that's not fair to the American people. That's why the First Amendment was part of why the First Amendment was put in place, to give the freedom of speech and to give the press, the media, the autonomy to report the truth without penalty. We are here to educate the media. And there are plenty of us independent journalists on YouTube. There's myself, there's Jack Cusciarella, of course, there's Brian Tyler Cohen, there's David Feldman, David Pakman, Jesse Dollemore, the Meiselas brothers, Ben Meiselas, Glenn Kirshner, Mark Elias. I don't know if I think I mentioned David Feldman. There's just so many. There's the Young Turks. You know, there's a bunch of us out here because we're not afraid and we want you to know. It's paramount that when you walk in there, and don't sit back and say that your vote doesn't count, because it does. That's why people like Turning Point and AI PAC and all of these political action committees are raising all of this money. This is why you might get 1 million fundraising emails every day, because these people need money to earn votes. All the money, there's billions of dollars spent on elections. Elon Musk himself poured in, almost $800 million to get Trump elected. So don't say that your vote doesn't count. But when you walk into that ballot booth, you need to be fully informed of what you're getting, because a lot of people right now in this country, and I'm talking to you, MAGA, are in the fuck around and find out stage. Those voters, those farmers that voted for Trump, they found out. Or the Latinos for Trump and the Latina women for Trump, they found out. They thought that they would be safe if they sided with him. They felt better to be at the devil's right hand than in his path. They didn't realize there's no honor among thieves, and Trump is a thief of the highest order. So this is why we're here, to educate you. And my mission today is to educate you right now. So here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take you back to a time when I was a baby, the early 60s. There was a lot of civil unrest in this country. We know that Trump is racist, by the way. We know that. And he and his family enjoyed that time because the white man was superior. Segregation was rampant. Jim Crow was everywhere. My God, black people had to pay a poll tax just to vote. They had to pay to vote. And many of them couldn't afford it. So even though they were allowed to vote, they still couldn't vote because of the damn poll tax. It was a time of civil unrest that screamed all the way back to before the Civil War. We had the Civil War, and let's be clear about this. Lincoln didn't free the slaves because he loved them. Lincoln freed the slaves. And what I mean by freed is he made it so that you couldn't buy and sell a human being as you would a horse, a table, or a cart, what they call chattel. You could not buy and sell a human being as chattel. That was his version of freeing the slaves. He did it to reunite the country because the North and South had separated, and he wanted to bring the Union back together. And he was successful in that effort. Militarily, he beat the shit out of the South. Sorry, but that's the facts. It happened. And at Appomattox, the Confederate Army surrendered. Those are facts. Get over it. They surrendered because they got their asses kicked. But the one thing that Lincoln didn't do, who, by the way, felt that a Negro could never be an equal to the white man, one thing he did not do is guarantee them civil rights. He did not give them any infrastructure. He did not give them a way to own property, to create generational wealth. And something that I've said a million times over and over, for people of color, the banking system is not made for you because you've systematically been kept poor. As the stock market was not made for you because the system was made to keep you on the low end. And that also holds true, ladies and gentlemen, for all of the immigrants that came through Ellis Island, whether they be Russian, Polish, German, French, Italian, all of that doesn't matter. The system, and that goes for the Asians too. This is why, hear me out, this is why you had an American mafia. This is why you had an Irish mafia. This is why you had an Italian mafia. Because the system was made to keep white Anglo-Saxon Protestants wealthy, but not these other people. Not people of color. Even though they were Caucasians from Europe, from Sweden, whatever, they were kept on the low end of the stick. But nobody more so than the former slaves, the descendants of the former slaves, because they were looked at as totally inferior. There was a particular low hierarchy, and at the bottom of their hierarchy was Jews, and below that was the descendants of the former slaves. And it could be argued that even below that was the Native Americans, that these white Anglo-Saxon Protestants stole this land from. The fight ensued for hundreds of years, nearly 200 at that time. Finally, in 1964, we got the Civil Rights Act. Black people had the full right to vote even before women. It took another 6-7 years before women could vote. However, right now, they're on the move. They're on the move. Last night, the U.S. House under Mike Johnson passed the quote, Save America Act, which they know damn well is voter suppression. They know damn well. The move they pulled with that flaky warrant in Fulton County, Georgia last week. They did last week what Tina Peters was trying to do just after the 2020 election. They wanted to get their hands on a voting machine. They wanted to see how it worked. They wanted to see what they could manipulate. And now they got them. Now they got them. And even though the votes have been tallied and certified and Biden got his 4 years, Trump is going to try. I'm betting, not Trump himself, but I'm betting it's going to be Tulsi Gabbard is going to provide a report that says that Trump got 14,000 more votes than he did. And he should have won in Georgia. Because the one thing, and I've talked to you about this before, with a narcissist, the three most important things with a narcissist is money, power, and image. Donald Trump does not want to lose. He screamed out back before the 2020 election. He said, I cannot lose to fucking Joe Biden. That's an exact quote from Steve Bannon. Now, Trump does not like the fact that he lost to Joe Biden. They ran to 60 courts, including his handpicked Supreme Court, and they all shot it down. But what you don't know is none of Trump's attorneys went in and alleged any kind of voter fraud or anything like that, or that the election was rigged, because they had and still do not have no proof. If those attorneys, Rudy Giuliani and what's her name, Sidney Powell, and the rest of that Trump clique went into court before a judge and said, there was election tampering and there was vote manipulation, all that, the first thing that would have come out is, where's the proof? Because when you file a complaint, that is a sworn statement. A complaint is a legal document that is a sworn statement. You may not stand up and say the words, but you sign at the bottom, I certify these facts to be true to the best of my knowledge. That's an oath. And when you present that and you have no evidence or facts to back it up, but you certified and said that these facts are true, you commit perjury. And for those attorneys, they could have lost their law licenses. So they were damn careful not to say that kind of stuff before any of those 60 judges. But let's bring it to the here and now. I was just reading yesterday, studies have come out. So Trump's tariffs have cost the average American household $1,000 extra last year. We paid $1,000 more than we should have last year for stuff because of his tariffs. Because of his tariffs, we're on our way to doubling our current national debt within the next 10 years. This year alone, we're looking at a $2 trillion more added on to the existing $38 trillion of debt that we already have. Why? Tax cuts for the wealthy and his fucking tariffs. And here's another kicker. We're looking at $1 trillion just in debt service What is debt service? Debt service is interest. You know, when you buy a car or a house and you take out a loan and you have to pay interest, that's called debt service. So that's going to be $3 trillion. We're heading for another recession. And people are finally starting to see it. I don't care that Pam Bondi went before the House Judiciary Committee yesterday and said the Dow is up 50,000. What does that mean for us? Your IRAs and your 401ks. Yeah, and that, you know what? The minute Trump says we're going to bomb Iran again, it's going to plummet. It's going to plummet hundreds of points because the markets have been on, every time he's in office, the markets are just on a roller coaster because he's not stable. Markets and banks and financial institutions survive on stability and security. They have neither with Donald Trump. The bottom line is, you can say that stuff is all good propaganda, but you know what? If you got your health insurance through the Affordable Care Act, you lost your subsidies last year, and your health insurance costs went up. They either doubled, tripled, or quadrupled, depending on the size of your family. That's a fact. It is now a fact that you paid $1,000 more for products because of Trump's fucking tariffs. And corporate greed, I might add. Jeff Bezos is building another super mansion. How do you think he's doing that? Raise the price on everything. The Walton family, which is Walmart, they said prices aren't going to go down in 2026. They're going to keep rising. Pam Bondi lied and said rents are lower now than they've ever been. You want to tell that to those folks that just became homeless because they couldn't afford to pay rent? Not to mention all of the layoffs that are coming. There's a few 100,000 layoffs coming from a lot of companies. And what do you think that's going to do? The American people are not stupid, and they're not falling for it, Mr. Trump, for the most part. Some of them are so damn blind, and they're naturally the type that need to be told what to do. So they just listen to your bullshit, your authoritative bullshit, because you represent a leader to them because they don't know how to lead. They're incapable of independent thought. MAGA. And they just let you slide with this bullshit. But we see the truth. The average American is seeing your lies and bullshit for what it is. And guess what? We're going to take the House and the Senate in the midterms. And that's why you're on the move now. That's why you're pushing to get the SAVE Act through. That's why that's why you're pulling out every possible stop you can. What you wanted to do was create riots with the ICE movements so that you could declare martial law and cancel the elections. Now you want to suppress votes. You tried gerrymandering in Texas, and California kicked that backwards. Republicans are going to lose seats in the House this year in the midterms, and the Senate is very close. That effectively neuters your power because you can't create laws. Congress does. And if you're not in control of Congress, everything you ask from them, they could just flat out do like they did, Mitch McConnell did to Obama, and say no. Because your policies suck, Donald. And the people see it. And the only way that you can get away with this shit is if you cheat. That's the only way you're going to keep the House and the Senate, is by cheating. Not necessarily vote tampering, which I wouldn't put past you, but voter suppression, your attacks on blue states, threatening to have ICE around voting stations for intimidation. You know what, Donald? Immigrants are not voting. Stop telling the people that lie. They don't get from the social service net, and they cannot vote. These are facts, not alternative facts, real facts. It's the law. I know you don't believe in the law, but it's the law. So you have only one recourse left, and that's to be on the move. And I'm here to warn the American people today, the average American, that they are on the move, and they are planning to cheat and steal the midterms. But we can stop them. No one's going to ride in and save us. We can stop them. We got to come out educated, informed, and strong in numbers too big to rig. And we've got to put Democrats in governor's seats, in House seats, and in Senate seats that they don't have now, as well as maintain what we do have. We need veto-proof majorities to put an end to this goddamn national nightmare called MAGA. But right now, they're on the move. And we need to be too. I'm M. Carter Pierce, and you've been watching The Daily Reel. I want to thank you for taking time to watch this very long video, but it was important. By all means, if you heard something that you liked, if you learned something today, or if you have any ideas to contribute to help us out, like this video, hit that thumbs up, comment below, and please, for God's sake, share this video with your family and friends so that they may be even more educated on what's going on. And also, if you haven't done so already, consider subscribing to the channel, that we may continue to bring you content such as this, because we're living in a time that this content is needed. It's time for the people, we the people in the Constitution. It's time that we are prioritized, not just the wealthy, not just the powerful, because there's more of us than there's more of them. Again, thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one.